The Premier League is back after an FA Cup break, so it's time to get our predictions in. Firstly, starting with my Game Week 21 results, I managed to get 5 points in total, taking me up to a season total of Vicstar 123, which is nice to see. Yeah, just 5 correct results. A pretty bad week for me, if I'm honest. We're going to see later in this video that you guys did a little bit better. First, though, we're going to take a look at Game Week 22 predictions for myself. It's looking like a decent game week. There's some interesting fixtures in here. I think the standout one for me has got to be Spurs versus City, but it's probably only going to go one way. Arguably, Chelsea versus Fulham is a much more interesting fixture. Remember, as I'm making my predictions, guys, get your predictions down in the comments so that you can be on our subscriber leaderboard next week. And whilst you're down there, hit a like on this video and subscribe to the channel as well. It would be much appreciated. 1,000 subscribers this year is the goal. Fulham have lost 2 games in a row recently, up against Newcastle and then Tottenham, but they do find themselves above Chelsea in the table, currently sat in 7th place with Chelsea down in 10th. Chelsea have spent more money in this January transfer window than most teams have across the whole of the last 5 seasons, so I'm kind of expecting Chelsea to slowly start climbing the table in the second half of this season. However, I don't think that starts up against Fulham. I still think Fulham are the better overall side in this fixture, but with Chelsea's new signings, I am going to give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt. I'm going to put Chelsea down to draw this game at home to Fulham 1-1. I think it will be a pretty even game, and being the first game back after a lot of cup matches this week, it's going to be one of those to get the cobwebs out, basically. A bit like KSI going back to boxing. We'll call it pitch rust. Everton down in 19th position. Arsenal, top of the league. This is probably the easiest point we're going to get this week. It'll just be whether we can predict the correct scoreline. I've gone for an Arsenal win. I don't need to say much on it. I think they're far superior to Everton in every single way. I have gone for 4-0 to Arsenal. I've gone for a big scoreline here. Hopefully Arsenal can come out and give the fans what they want. Brighton is still on track to compete for a European spot this season, and they're up against a Bournemouth side who have only got 1 point out of the last 5 games. Arguably, there's only really one way you should go, and that is to Brighton. They've obviously lost players over the last couple of months, but they've kept Caicedo, I believe. I don't think he went on transfer deadline day. Whether he comes back into the squad and just settles back in and carries on playing, or whether he kicks up a fuss, is yet to be seen. But you'd like to think he'll be professional. You'd like to think he'll see the rest of this season out with the Brighton squad that arguably could finish in their highest position ever in the Premier League. So I've gone for 1-0 to Brighton in this fixture. I think they do get the win. If anything, the scoreline will probably be a bit bigger. Manchester United are up against Crystal Palace. They are playing in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup tonight against Nottingham Forest. I don't know the result of that fixture yet, so if someone's got really badly injured or something like that, I don't know. I did watch them in the FA Cup. Andy Carroll was an absolute disgrace, taking out lots of people and managing to actually injure Ericsson, which resulted in us getting Sabitzer on loan for the rest of the season. Where do I see this fixture going? I think Man United will win. I think they're a far superior side to Crystal Palace, but Crystal Palace are also one of those sides that can surprise you sometimes and can cause you a bit of an upset. So there's a chance that there will be an upset here, but I don't think so. I've gone for 3-1 to Manchester United, a straightforward win, and hopefully another 3 points towards putting a slight push on the teams above us. Southampton is still rock bottom of the Premier League, and Brentford much further up the table in, I believe, 8th place. Yes, correct. And they've not lost a game in a little while now. So they're going to be a team that are in decent form and will probably see off Southampton pretty easily. Southampton, of course, did put up a bit of a fight against Newcastle in the Carabao Cup semi-final, but overall just got swept aside by a much superior side. I think that's going to happen again this weekend. I've gone for Brentford to win 3-0 up against Southampton. I think it'll be pretty straightforward. With Wolves up against Liverpool, I've gone for my outside shout of the week. I haven't gone so far to be stupid, but I have put it down to be a draw. I think Liverpool are performing really poorly at the moment. In the FA Cup, they were really poor this weekend. Got knocked out, of course, after a late goal. But overall, they're just not performing very well. And I personally think that it's just going to be one of those seasons for them. They're going to finish very much mid-table, and it's going to have to be a bit of a refresh in the summer. With that being said, I've gone for a 2-2 draw here. I don't know. It could go either way, if I'm honest. If Wolves turn up and perform, they could nick a win. It's the best time to play Liverpool. That's about all I can say. Aston Villa have quietly come into a little bit of form. They've won 3 and drawn 1 in the last 4 games, and they've just started to pick up some points and climb the Premier League table. I think up against Leicester, they're going to continue to do that. I think they are going to get the win. I've gone for 1-0 to Aston Villa. Leicester, for me, this season are just really poor. In fact, they're in a really bad run of form at the moment. They've lost 4 of their last 5 games, and they've only picked up 1 point from 1 draw. So, arguably, it's a great time to play Leicester. Aston Villa, I think, will capitalise. In my opinion, West Ham are in a very dangerous position this season. I don't want to see West Ham leave the Premier League. In fact, in my start of the season predictions, I actually predicted them to get into Europe. That is not going to happen. Sorry, West Ham fans, but you're up against Newcastle this week, and your fortunes are very unlikely to change. I've gone for a Newcastle win here. They're very, very good. They do not concede a goal, a clean sheet every single week almost. In fact, they are in the top 6 teams ever in the Premier League at this point in the season for the least conceded goals. They came 6th behind like Invincibles and all that, but the 98 United team I think was in there as well. But Newcastle were up there for the least amount of goals conceded. They're not going to concede against West Ham because I've gone for 3-0. I don't know. This Newcastle team's special. Next season, I think they do challenge for the title. Well, if they don't challenge for it this season, it is. They easily could. Now, I've got Nottingham Forest versus Leeds, which is 13th versus 15th respectively. This prediction could change massively depending on how Nottingham Forest perform against Manchester United in the Carabao Cup semi. If they manage to turn that fixture around and get themselves a win, then I'll probably be predicting something very different here. I'd argue my prediction for this is actually pretty poor, because if you look at the form books, you've got Nottingham Forest, who haven't lost in 4 games and have picked up 2 wins and 2 draws in those 4 games, and you've got Leeds United that have drawn 3, lost 1. Nottingham Forest, arguably, in a much better run of form. However, I've gone for a 2-2 draw. I think these guys are pretty level pegging. They're going to be in that risky drop scenario by the end of the season, where they're only going to be 3 or 4 points ahead of the bottom 3. And I think a point is probably pretty fair. The final game to predict today is Tottenham versus Manchester City. I've gone with my heart and not my head at all, if I'm honest with you. Spurs of late have had a pretty poor run of form. They've lost 3 out of their last 5 games. Manchester City have lost a game, drawn a game, but they've also won the other 3. City currently sat second. They're 5 points behind Arsenal, and Arsenal have a game in hand. So they are potentially 8 points behind Arsenal. A lot of people would have predicted Man City to walk this season, win the league easily, Erling Haaland scoring hat-tricks left, right and centre, but it just hasn't been the case. Arsenal, I think that just goes to show how well they've performed this season, if I'm honest. I've gone with such a stupid prediction, and I can't believe I've actually gone with this. I don't know why I've gone with this at all, but I have. I've gone with my heart and not my head at all. I want Man City to be dropping points. I've gone for 1-1. I think that's absolutely diabolical predictions, and Spurs fans, if you think you're going to win this game, then you are the most die-hard fans I've ever met. A roundup of my Game Week 22 predictions then. We've got Chelsea to draw at home with Fulham, Everton to lose 4-0 to Arsenal, Brighton to win 1-0 against Bournemouth, Manchester United to win 3-1 at Crystal Palace, Brentford to win 3-0 against Southampton, Wolves and Liverpool to draw 2-2, Aston Villa to win 1-0 against Leicester, Newcastle United to win 3-0 against West Ham, Nottingham Forest and Leeds to draw 2-2, and Spurs and Manchester City to draw 1-1. Remember guys, get your predictions in the comments down below so that you can be on our leaderboard next week. Let's see how you got on last week. Ben and Jacklius came first with 13 points in Game Week 21. Very impressive results there. Annie came in second for the second week in a row with 12 points, and Wilf came in with 10 points. And then below us, we've actually got some new people coming in. Tellis and Akinteo both coming in for their first weeks and getting a respectable 4 and 8 points respectively. I came in with 5 points and Steiben made his return with 7 points. Very decent competition. I feel like we can do better this week though. I want someone to get into the 20s. So remember to get your predictions in. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed, hit a like on it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. And I'll see you in the next one.